Okay, we are studying the nervous system. Notice the abbreviation will make things easier in the slides. All right, so the nervous system, the actual anatomy of parts is super easy. There's the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists simply of the brain and the spinal cord, which is a bundle of nerves traveling down the back inside the vertebral column. So there's the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral means to the side of, right? So these are all the other nerves throughout the body which connect the central nervous system to all your body parts, to your internal organs, to your fingers, down to your toes, etc. So there's many, many, many peripheral nerves, okay? So they connect the CNS, the brain and spinal cord, to the rest of the body. And they either begin in the CNS or end in the CNS, depending if they are giving you information or if they're receiving information, right? Like usual, when I start a screencast, my computer jams for some unknown reason. Anyway, here we go. The contrast between, we just studied the endocrine system, right? We're now beginning the nervous system, and they have something in common. They're both the systems of control. They control and also integrate all the body systems and many different aspects of the body, right? So they've got a lot in common, systems of control and integration. But we also have to look at their distinctions. The nervous system is wired, so to speak, right? It's kind of a silly way of putting it, but all those green nerves you were looking at in that previous diagram are kind of like wires, which carry information. And by that image, the endocrine system would be wireless. It's instead a chemical connection, not a truly physical connection. So here there needs to be an anatomical relationship to carry the message, which is an electrochemical nerve impulse. And here there's no anatomical connection. There's simply the target cell, which needs specific receptor proteins. But there isn't an actual anatomic connection. In fact, you probably remember when you did the diagrams of the endocrine system, you were naming lots of things, the thymus, the thyroid, the ovaries, etc., but they weren't physically connected. They didn't have any physical connection. Unlike the digestive system where everything was connected, the esophagus was connected to the stomach and so on. So here's an anatomical connection. Here they're not connected. It's just the chemical specificity of receptor proteins that can bind to hormones. This is an important contrast. Nervous system is very rapid and brief, right? If you think about the time it takes for you to decide to move something and how quickly you move it, it's extremely rapid, even more rapid if it's a reflex. And instead, in general, it's a generalization, but endocrine system is slower and longer lasting. And that's why it deals with body functions like growth, reproduction, making sperm and eggs, metabolism, etc. Kidney regulation of water and electrolytes. These things are kind of long-term bodily activities which are controlled by the endocrine system. And of course, here very rapid and precise responses. So this is a visual representation of the contrast. So here's the nervous system. We're about to study this funny looking cell. It's a nerve cell. The whole thing, including this long thin part, is part of the cell. And they're physically connected. This nerve cell has to be connected to the next one, and so on. And instead, this is kind of an odd diagram. This represents an endocrine gland making, this blue thing is a hormone, and the hormone travels through a blood vessel. And here's the target cell. And this brown thing is supposed to be a receptor protein on the cell's membrane. So it's a very schematic diagram, but you get the idea. The endocrine gland and the target cell are not physically connected. There's a chemical connection through the hormone. This is the exact same diagram. Here's the nerve cell. This time it's connecting to a muscle. Don't worry about this. We'll learn about this later. Here's a gland. These are gland cells secreting hormones. These black dots are hormones. They travel through the bloodstream, and the target cells are the green ones which receive the message of the hormones. Okay. So here we are back to the parts of the nervous system, and the spinal cord is not well understood by most people. It's truly a large bundle of many, many nerves, which are the connection between the brain and all the peripheral nerves. We'll look at that up close in a moment. Nerves are literally the wires which transmit the signals, the messages. And these signals are the all mysterious, all amazing electrochemical impulses. It's very odd because how does your finger know when to move if you're writing? Because of electrochemical impulses. How do you know that the mug you are holding has very hot tea or lukewarm tea? Because of the electrochemical impulses giving you this information from your fingertips to your brain. So these impulses are messages that carry sensations, that carry commands for your muscles, that carry thoughts, etc., etc. So the electrochemical impulses are that which carry the messages along the nerves. Here's a close-up of the spinal cord because it gets real confusing. Okay, so the bones of the spine are called vertebrae. This is one individual vertebrae. It has a part which is a hole. What goes inside that hole? So transfer that over to here. This bump is this bump. Okay, so this is the back. This is posterior. This is anterior. And this part here is the part with the holes, except you see that now it's been filled. What's it filled with? Spinal cord. These are bundles of nerves. This tissue is soft. This tissue is hard. It's bone. This tissue is soft. It's a little bit confusing, so we're going to look at it again. This is the bundle of nerves inside, and you see how it keeps branching out at all these plus. Inside those branches are many individual nerves. So, for example, perhaps this is the branch which is going to go off to your right arm. This would be for your right hand. This would be for your shoulder muscle, and so on. I mean, I'm just making up these distinctions, but you get the idea. At each point of branching off, there's many individual nerves that are going to be carrying messages to specific parts of your body. So I hope this isn't too confusing. So these stack of bones, stack of vertebrae, are called the vertebral column. Notice they have cartilage in between so that they don't bump into each other in a painful way. And inside all the holes of those vertebrae is nerve tissue, the soft bundle of nerves, which is called the spinal cord. If you feel your back, by the way, if you feel your backbone, you're going to feel these bumps. That's what you would be feeling, right? You wouldn't be able to touch your spinal cord. That's deliberate. It's protected inside those bones. Okay, here's a nerve cell. A nerve cell is a crazy looking cell. The whole thing is a cell, believe it or not. For example, if you ask where the cytoplasm is, it's not just in the cell body, it's all along these long, thin things as well. So the nerve cell has a very distinct direction. I drew these arrows in because they weren't there. The diagram has these arrows along the axon. The nerve cell has the main cell body. It has these dendrites, which are long, thin, tentacle-like things, which are receiving or picking up sensations, okay? That's why the message, the direction of information is going from their tips to the cell body. After the cell body, there's this main, long, thin part called the axon here. It's one long primary axon. The dendrites are many, but there's one primary axon. And then the axon divides at the end into axon terminals, or also called nerve endings. Where would receptors be found? Receptors are that which receive or gather information. They would be here, right? If this was your nose, it would be smell receptors. If it was the cochlea of your ear, it would be hearing receptors, and so on. Many in your skin could be pain receptors, temperature receptors, etc., etc., etc. Where would the effectors be? Effectors are the thing which receives the message, puts it into effect. They would be here. Okay, can you label all this and do it on your own? Hopefully you can. Take a minute to pause and do so. This is kind of a simpler diagram. We didn't, by the way, learn what these bumpy things on the outside are. We'll talk about those later. Okay, I think this diagram will be super confusing. You might want to come back to it. In fact, let's skip it and come back to it. So, oh dear, maybe we shouldn't have. Well, let's go back to it in a minute to take it back. So, your central nervous system has to communicate with the rest of the body. In this diagram, this indicates your central nervous system. This is your peripheral nervous system, the rest of your body. Nerve messages are going to be going from receptors, where there's a sensory nerve, right? Sensory nerve, taking the sensation that's been picked up by the receptor to the central nervous system, to the brain or spinal cord. Within the brain or spinal cord, you need to process this information. For example, if it's a smell, you need to say, oh, that smells good. it smells like my cookies might be getting ready. I should go check on them and turn the oven off, right? There's a lot of thoughts involved in that. So you would be receiving the sensation of smell and processing it to what you need to do and so on. And how would that be processed? Along interneurons. Interneurons are the nerves within the brain, within the spinal cord. And then as you would decide what to do, the command would exit through a motor neuron or a motor nerve. And these are of two types. They can be voluntary or they can be involuntary. The voluntary ones tell your muscles how to move. Like when you say, I'm going to take notes, I'm going to write this word, and you tell your finger muscles to write it. Or when you say, I'm going to kick the ball, you tell your leg muscles to kick it. Or they could be autonomic, which is, as it sounds, more or less automatic. It's involuntary, which is what happens when your brain commands your heart, your cardiac muscles, your smooth muscles, or your glands to secrete something or to contract. So the things you don't control. We'll talk more about those. So this is the direction. Receptor, sensory nerve to the sensory nerve to the central nervous system, interneuron to connect information in your brain, and out on a motor neuron. So I think this will make more sense when we look here. Here, the receptors are inside your skin. This is a piece of skin tissue. Here is the big, long sensory nerve. Can you see it? So information travels this way on the sensory nerve. It's also called an afferent neuron. I don't insist upon that vocabulary, but you should be able to recognize it. Afferent for arriving is how I think it's a good way to memorize it. So it's traveling this way on the sensory neuron. It arrives to the CNS. This is the CNS in here. It connects inside the CNS on an interneuron. Remember, interneurons are within the CNS. And it exits along motor neurons, also called efferent. Efferent for exiting. Efferent neuron or motor neuron. It exits. And here it's being taken to a muscle. These are muscle fibers. And that muscle can be called the effector, the thing which puts the nerve impulse into effect, which puts the command into effect. So just make sure you know this vocabulary, but more importantly is to know the sequence of, it's called a neural pathway. Receptor along a sensory neuron to your brain or spinal cord, to your CNS. Within the spinal cord, connected on an interneuron, connects it to the motor neuron, which carries the command you want to execute. The nerve impulse travels along the motor neuron and gives its message to the effector, which is very often a muscle. This is the exact same thing, just a different type of diagram. A little bit more realistic, a little bit more confusing. This is the skin. In this case, these are the receptors. Travels this way. Kind of confusing because the interneuron is short. Do you see the interneuron there? But it should be short. It's within your brain, whereas motor neurons are often long. They have to travel all the way from your brain to a muscle. And this is the muscle. Okay, so let's practice doing this. You should go through these one at a time and see if you can label. Actually, let me explain. Label interneurons within the brain, motor neurons, and motor neurons can be somatic or voluntary. Somatic is the same as voluntary, or they can be autonomic, involuntary. And lastly, sensory neurons. Okay, so go through these and try to figure out which of the four they are. And here are your answers. I'm not going to explain them because I think if you think them through, they make sense. The ones that are tricky, I'll specify here. Your mouth watering, it's a motor nerve because it's outgoing, it's giving a command. It commands your glands, your salivary glands in this case, and it's autonomic because you cannot deliberately make yourself salivate. It's an autonomic brain function. Whereas the moving of your hands is a motor somatic. Remember, you can substitute somatic with voluntary. Same thing here. When you sweat, it's not deliberate. It's your body, it's your brain, which has decided, I'm hot, I need to sweat. So it's a motor nerve, which is autonomic. It's a motor autonomic command. Okay. All right. I think that's everything. Go through these and make sure they make sense. And here I have the same exercise. This is the neural pathway of smelling lasagna, your mouth watering, and you deciding to serve yourself the lasagna. So I want you to this time to do it visually as a schema, as a diagram. So try to draw out the nerves and label all the parts. And here's the finished product. In the nose is the receptor. Here's the sensory nerve arriving at the brain, arriving to the CNS. Within the brain are all the reactions. Oh, that lasagna smells good. Oh, um, I'm going to serve myself some, and oh, my mouth starts watering because it smells good, and